Welcome to Andres' Football Assessment Podcast. This first episode, I want to focus on the NFL Offseason, particularly everything that is big for every team. Everything big considering trades, signings, drafts, everything. And I just want to go into a deep dive of every big question, every big story from every team, every division, how they look for next year, and how they will fare for next year. I want to immediately start off with the NFC West. Seattle. They went 10-6 last season, and they've acquired certain players that actually helped them out a lot, in my opinion. Ezekiel Ansah, that was a great addition, considering the fact that beforehand they franchise tagged Frank Clark and traded him to Kansas City Chiefs. Seattle made a lot of great decisions trade-wise, and they utilized it very well in the draft. I think it was very smart on their end, but I don't know. It was a little iffy for trading Frank Clark. In the end, I think Seattle doing that, it helped them out a lot in the draft, particularly with the first round. They did really well. They drafted LJ Collier, who helps them out in the defensive line. And they also drafted DK Metcalf. And I want to bring that up because a lot of people are saying he's overrated. And it's true. He played 2 seasons of college football and was injured for the most part. He only played, I believe, 11, 12 full games. But every game you would see that he was considered the deep threat. And considering Seattle's situation with wide receivers, they needed him badly. He was the best wide receiver at that time that they could have gotten, and that was the smartest decision that they made. Overall, them re-signing Russell Wilson, I think that was interesting. He becomes the highest paid quarterback in NFL history with that deal. It was a 6-year deal, over $140 million. Overall, I think Seattle did really well. I gave them a grade of B+. And considering their division, well, we'll get to that in the end. San Francisco went 4-12. Why? Jimmy Garoppolo. Why do I say that? Jimmy Garoppolo was doing really well. Yes, they went 1-2 with him, but if you look at the film, if you look how he played, he learned from his mistakes. First game against the Vikings, made a lot of mistakes. Went way too many times downfield. Second game, started learning. Started to take what the defense gave him, started making plays. They won that game. Then the third game against Kansas City, he was doing really well. I mean, given the fact that they were kind of down in the third quarter, so really couldn't do much there. But Jimmy Garoppolo is their quarterback. They need to trust him. Overall, I think San Francisco they should eliminate getting a quarterback for the next couple of years, for sure. They reloaded their offense with Jordan Matthews and Tevin Coleman. Defense-wise, they look really, really good. The lineup is insane. Quan Alexander, D. Ford, Jason Verrett, Jimmy Ward. You got Nick Bosa now. I mean, just the defense looks absolutely insane on paper. I'm just hoping they look really good during the NFL season. I think the San Francisco 49ers are an underrated dark horse. I said this last year with my friends. I told them that the San Francisco 49ers can be a dark horse team to go to the playoffs that no one expects. This year, they look more than capable of being that dark horse. That dark horse team that makes it to the playoffs and nobody expected. I would watch out for the 49ers. Arizona. The Cardinals. It's tough to say, okay? Arizona went 3-13. That was going to happen. They were going to be probably one of the worst teams in the NFL, in my opinion. After what we saw in the draft last year with Cleveland, I'm pretty sure that eliminated all sorts of having Cleveland as the worst team in the NFL. Arizona, they did really well, okay? They did really well with the draft. They did really well with taking what they were given. Taking Kyler Murray, that was really smart, okay? A lot of people, especially my friends, I'm going to bring that up a couple times, okay? My friends told me, like, I mean, he's kind of short. Okay. Kyler Murray, if you look at his film, every time he was pressured and got out of the pocket, he was able to make great throws. And not only that, in the pocket, he made amazing throws. He is overall an insane athlete. I think Kyler Murray will help the Arizona Cardinals for years to come. It's just a matter of them getting more weapons, okay? They did a really good job rebuilding, okay? Really good job. If I were to change anything, I probably wouldn't have signed Terrell Suggs. I think that was a little bit iffy. He's near the end. He's near his retirement age, if I may say. The only bad parts I would say is that Patrick Peterson got suspended. That's the only real bad part, I would say. He got suspended for breaking the PED policy, violated it. So he's suspended for 6 weeks, the first 6 weeks of the NFL season. And also, big story coming out of Arizona and big story in Miami that we'll get to later on. Josh Rosen being traded. Now, that was interesting because they wanted to trade him for a first rounder, and Miami was smart by waiting the next day to trade for Josh Rosen with a second round pick. I think the Miami Dolphins stole one, so we'll get to that in a later day. And then finally, the last team in the NFC West is the Los Angeles Rams. The best team in the NFL record-wise, best NFL team, statistics-wise, everything. On paper, they look monstrous. They're a big threat. As far as offseason is concerned, they really didn't do much, okay? They didn't do much. I will give them the benefit of the doubt. They did end up filling roster spots that they've lost. One that I would like to point out, LaMarcus Joyner. They added Eric Weddle. They released Mark Barron. They added Clay Matthews. Like, stuff like that. They kept Malcolm Brown. They kept Dante Fowler. They added Corey Littleton and Blake Bortles. That was interesting. What happened? That's the one question I would like to... What happened to the Rams? Jared Goff looked sluggish in the Super Bowl game. Todd Gurley, where was he? That was the most important game of the year, and he didn't show up. Are they the same caliber team as last year? That's going to be a big question coming up. Is Jared Goff still a really good quarterback? Is Todd Gurley the best running back in the league still? Like, things like this. They lost certain players. They let go of Roger Saffold. They didn't re-sign Ndamukong Suh. And they let C.J. Anderson go to the Lions. I think that was a big thing, too. C.J. Anderson did help them a lot through the last couple of games during the regular season, especially in the postseason. So letting him go, that was interesting. As far as the winner, in my opinion, of the offseason in NFC West is concerned, Arizona, by a mile. Considering draft picks, considering smart moves and signings, I would say San Francisco. And I'm riding on San Francisco being a really good team this year. I honestly think that Jimmy Garoppolo will come back better than ever. I think Jimmy Garoppolo will kill it in San Francisco. Moving on, NFC East, okay? We're going to start off with the Dallas Cowboys. They re-signed Sean Lee, they re-signed Tavon Austin, and they acquired, I would say, two key players. Randall Cobb, wide receiver, and George Iloka. Why do I say key? Randall Cobb, veteran experience, was really good in the Packers, and simply, it helps them. They need wide receivers all around. They need wide receivers. Georgie Loca, they've had secondary issues for a long time. I have a friend who's a Cowboys fan. He wanted Earl Thomas, and that was a huge story coming out of Dallas. It was eh. The only bad parts I would say about Dallas is Jason Witten unretiring. I mean, good for him, but I mean, like, is he still the Jason Witten that we know, that he's really a threat, or is he just there to be there? He's not. I really don't see much coming out of that. And also policy issues. Randy Gregory and David Irving. Randy Gregory is suspended indefinitely, and David Irving retired because of the weed policy in the NFL. And Dallas, this offseason, had a quiet offseason. They had a real quiet offseason. Considering their record last year, 10-6, I don't see them changing from that. Maybe 9-7, maybe 11-5 if they look really good. That's a good record spot for them. I think 10-6 is a good record spot for next year. And on to the biggest two stories coming out of the NFC, in my opinion, other than the Cardinals. Washington and New York. We're going to start with New York, okay? Because a lot of people made fun of New York for their changes, for their roster moves. And honestly, it was smart. It was actually really smart. New York did a really good job drafting. They did a decent job signing and trading. I'd like to say decent because, yeah. They upgraded their offense. They upgraded the defense. They traded away Odell Beckham. What in the world compels you to trade away a generational talent in Odell Beckham Jr.? I don't know. I don't know why. Why would you do that? Beyond me. Dave Gettleman is either a genius in disguise or an absolute idiot. But nonetheless, Daniel Jones looks really good, okay? Considering the fact that he broke his collarbone, I believe, during the Duke season, he played the whole season, okay? Played the whole season and still did really good. Don't argue saying that he can't throw a deep ball. He can. It was his receivers, okay? He's a really good quarterback. He was a really good quarterback in a really, really bad team, okay? With the Giants, he has a chance to show that he's here to stay. He's here to be a superstar in the NFL. Now on to the other big story in Washington, the Redskins. They drafted smartly and patiently. They let Dwayne Haskins come to them at the 15th pick. Traded up for Montez Sweat. That was really good. Did they pay too much for Landon Collins? I think so. Landon Collins is great. He's good. He's an amazing superstar. But honestly, that was a little bit much, in my opinion, for Landon Collins. They traded for Case Keenum as well. Okay. All right. Okay. Will they be successful? Now, considering their record last year, 7-9, that was with Alex Smith. Alex Smith was killing it with the Redskins. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, they could be something. They can have an 8-8 record. I believe they can have the same record as last year. For the Redskins, I think they're set for future's sake. All they really need to do is add more wide receiver depth, and I think they're fine, honestly. And on to the last team in the NFC East, the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I feel like this hasn't been talked about much. The Eagles have been overlooked immensely. Why do I say that? They made so many roster moves that no one noticed that are absolute gems, okay? They re-signed Brandon Graham, Jason Kelsey, and Jason Peters, okay? They traded for Deshaun Jackson. Great move. They signed Malik Jackson for a less deal. That was great. They got Ronald Darby back. They got Andrew Sandejo. They got Vinny Curry. They traded for Jordan Howard. And honestly, I love this. They signed 2 AAF players, American Alliance of Football players, in Luis Perez and Charles Johnson. Luis Perez, the quarterback for the Orlando Apollos, and Charles Johnson, the wide receiver for the Orlando Apollos. They added a lot of depth, a lot of roster moves. 9-7 record last year. I think they can go up to 11-5. But here's the main thing, okay? Can Carson Wentz stay 100%? Can he stay at 100% throughout the whole season and continue that for the postseason? Can Carson Wentz take the Eagles back to the postseason? That's the main question that's coming out of Philadelphia, in my opinion. And honestly, I'm going to say this a little bit during this podcast episode. A lot of roster moves does not mean that they are good roster moves. In this case, these roster moves were definitely needed, okay? They needed the depth. They needed more players. They needed all this help, and this is going to help them. It's not going to alter the Eagles. It's going to help them in the future. If I'm being honest, the winner of the NFC East this year, the Eagles can definitely win it if Carson Wentz can stay 100% and if he's still a really, really good quarterback. If he's at the elite level again, he can for sure beat the Cowboys and win that division. On to the NFC North, Chicago. They went 12-4 last season. Great season. Traded for Khalil Mack. Got a huge re-signing, Khalil Mack. Vic Fangio left, their defensive coordinator, and that's huge, in my opinion. That's huge. Why is it huge? Well, first off, defensive coordinator. Second off, why do you think the Chicago had a lot of success last year? It was through their defense. And if I'm being honest, can they be the same team as last year? Very much so. Same caliber? Maybe. I don't know. They didn't address the offense as much as I would hope they would do. They got Cordero Patterson. He was good. David Montgomery, the halfback. Okay. All right. It was interesting. Did they do enough in free agency? In my opinion, no. The only big thing that's coming out of this is Clinton Dix, who was a great safety for a while with the Packers. And also for the Redskins. Sorry. They let go of Adrian Amos, and they traded away Jordan Howard. That was kind of questioning for me. But nonetheless, Chicago, I don't know. Detroit. What are you doing? Okay? What are you doing? Are they trying to be the new Patriots here? Are they trying to copy what the Patriots are trying to accomplish? Or what are they trying to do here? They didn't get a new QB. Do they look scary? Are they a threat? I honestly don't think so. I'm looking at my notes here. Romeo Okwara, okay. Justin Coleman, that was interesting. Trey Flowers, okay. I mean, they made roster moves that looked good, but not really, okay? They drafted TJ Hawkinson, the supposedly Rob Gronkowski of the future tight end type. They wasted a bit much getting new players. And the main point coming out of this, they didn't draft a QB. Are they sticking with Matthew Stafford? Do they believe in Matthew Stafford still? I might go more into depth about quarterbacks in each of these teams in a future episode, maybe even next episode. But Matthew Stafford, is he really still a threat? Is he a good quarterback still? Detroit, I really don't see hope or any future success anytime soon. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong with some of these. But it doesn't look like it. Green Bay. The Packers had a few big stories, okay? Mike McCarthy getting fired and then hiring Matt LaFleur. From what I heard, he was a very offensive-minded coach, which it's kind of funny because they were heavily focused on defense this year. And if you if you want to know how heavily they were, well, here they are. Zadarius Smith, linebacker. Adrian Amos, safety. Rashawn Gary, defensive end. Darnell Savage, safety. I mean, they got really good players on defense. But hey, how about that offense, huh? Wait. Ooh. They didn't get anything, did they? They didn't. Not a single player on offense. A whole lot of defense, not a whole lot of offense. Why didn't they get any offensive firepower? They lost Randall Cobb, okay? They released Ty Montgomery in the middle of the year last year. That's concerning. Considering the fact that they were like, oh yeah, we need to address tight ends. I think we have a little shortage on tight ends here. Okay? Are you not going to get any more wide receivers? Are you not going to get a quarterback successor? I mean, Aaron Rodgers only has a few years left. You need to look towards more in the future. That's concerning for Green Bay, in my opinion. Minnesota, the Vikings. What happened? What happened to the defense? What happened to that spark, that defensive spark that they had the year before, where they completely annihilated teams? They went 8-7-1, okay? By a few good turnouts, okay? They re-signed key players in Anthony Barr and Adam Thielen for future deals. That was really good. They made coaching staff adjustments to help Kirk Cousins develop and to be an elite quarterback, hopefully. They didn't trade anyone to sign rookies, and that was a huge story. They were saying they were going to release or trade Everson Griffin or Kyle Rudolph to help get more players or sign more players, and they didn't. They restructured both of their contracts to help sign the rookies, and out of the rookie class, it looks really good. Garrett Bradbury, center, Irv Smith, tight end. They got a lot of good weapons here, and just the main concern here is, will Minnesota be better with Cousins next season? He said he's trying to develop, he's trying to get better. He doesn't want another thing like last season. The main concerns is, can he play in the key moments? Can he play fourth quarter, 2 minutes left, timeout remaining? Can he drive down that field stone cold and get a touchdown? Can he? The answer right now is no. Can we see development from that? Yes. Yes. You can. As far as the winner in NFC North is concerned for offseason, I would say Green Bay. Yes, they didn't get a lot of offense, but considering all the other teams combined, the other teams either didn't address certain other issues or didn't sign as much. Detroit, I'm not saying Detroit because I'm just very concerned for the quarterback position there. I'm saying Green Bay because they hired a new head coach that looks pretty good, and they got a lot of good defensive players in there that can make them a very scary team for next year. And on to the last division in the NFC South. It's a very interesting division considering that these teams actually made a lot of good choices and a lot of good moves. Atlanta. They heavily targeted offensive linemen, which was really good because they had one retire, Andy Leviter, and they released Brandon Fusco. Considering the draft, they did really good. They got 2 young offensive linemen. They also franchise tagged Grady Jarrett, which was really smart. They also signed Dirk Koetter, the former head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Why is that smart? He was a coordinator for the Falcons beforehand, and that's why the Falcons were really good before. Super Bowl 51 haunts them to this day, okay? Matty Ice is still Matty Ice. Matt Ryan is still an elite quarterback. Just not a lot of people see it because of that defense. The defense is doing him no favors. This is one of the rare cases where the quarterback is really good and the defense looks really good on paper, but doesn't help the quarterback at all, considering late game situations and winning games, okay? The Falcons defense did no favors for him. Carolina, this is very interesting because the main story coming out of Carolina was pretty recent. Gerald McCoy signed with the Carolina Panthers after being released from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So it's going to be very interesting seeing Gerald McCoy in a Panthers jersey going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers twice next season. They had a really smart offseason. Why? They signed Matt Paradis. They re-signed Darrell Williams. They got Bruce Irvin, Chris Hogan. They re-signed Eric Reed. They also drafted Brian Burns, Greg Little, and Will Grier. Those three are very, very key. Brian Burns, they needed a Julius Peppers replacement. And I think they got it. I think they got it. Greg Little needed help on the offensive line, which I think they're set now. Honestly, I think they're set on offensive linemen. Will Grier, this is huge because considering what Cam Newton went through last season with his shoulder, can Will Grier be the successor? Or is Cam Newton still elite and can still play football? Is Cam Newton's time done in Carolina? Right now, not for certain. Right now, he's going through rehab, going back to that shoulder. He's trying to tend to it. I saw during the offseason that he's trying to do that. Honestly, if Cam Newton doesn't show up next season, I believe that Will Grier can take over. Honestly. But believe in that new offense. Believe in it. New Orleans. It's interesting, okay? They re-signed Teddy Bridgewater. Is he the quarterback successor? Or is Taysom Hill the quarterback successor to Drew Brees? And that leads me to my next question. Is Drew Brees done with the NFL? Does he still have the firepower? Does he still have the will? Is he still good? Is he still good? And right now it's not for certain. Last season he did really well. On paper, in games, he looked really well. But the main thing that I kept seeing was that he made certain stupid mistakes at the wrong times. Especially in that NFC Championship game against the Rams. Look, you can say all you want about the refs in that game. I agree, honestly. It was kind of it was stupid. It was completely dumb. But considering what Drew Brees did in overtime in that first drive, he made a stupid throw. He shouldn't have thrown it that way. He should have thrown it out of bounds. He looks like a rookie quarterback making those mistakes, okay? It's not good. But off-season wise, they reloaded their offense. They reloaded their defense. Are they still a threat? Are the Saints still a threat in the NFC, and specifically in the NFC South? And now on the last team in the NFC South and the NFC, Tampa Bay. The Buccaneers made some really smart staff adjustments. They signed Bruce Arians as head coach and Todd Bowles as defensive coordinator. Both coordinators are where they need to be at their positions. Tom Bowles wasn't doing great as head coach. He's a more defensive-minded coach. Defensive coordinator. Smart. Bruce Arians. He can be the person to turn around Jameis Winston if he can. If Jameis Winston doesn't look better next season, I'm pretty sure they're done with him. They're going to draft a new quarterback. Probably Tua. Who knows? But that's really smart. Signings are quite interesting. They're interesting. Deion Buchanan, Blaine Gabbert, but those are just two weird and odd ones. Brashad Perriman, Donovan Smith, they franchise tagged and re-signed Donovan Smith to a pretty big deal that I think was pretty dumb. Shaquille Barrett and Ndamukong Suh. Why did they release Gerald McCoy? Why? That's one question I have for the Buccaneers. Why do they release Gerald McCoy? He's really good. He's an amazing defensive tackle, and yet you release him and then you get this really old veteran defensive tackle who did last season. I mean, come on, think of that. Think, man. Were the Buccaneers smart? I really don't know. I really don't. I can't say for certain if they were smart with their decisions, but we'll see with the next season. Should we still believe in Jameis Winston? We'll have to see next season. As far as the winner in offseason is concerned in the NFC South, Carolina, by a mile. They did really well. As far as revamping, I think the Atlanta Falcons did really well too. But I think this one goes to Carolina. Now moving on to the AFC. We're going to start off with the AFC North because I think that's the most interesting, story-packed division. Baltimore. They went 10-6 last season, which was really good. Their defense was scary. Their offense looked really nice with Lamar Jackson. A couple key things that you need to look here. They added more firepower for Lamar Jackson. They added Michael Floyd. They added Mark Ingram, Marquise Brown. Those are some really nice additions, in my opinion. They traded away Joe Flacco, yeah. I think that was a smart move, honestly. Key defensive additions. Pernell McPhee, Shane Ray, Earl Thomas. Those were really nice. Should they be on top in the AFC North? Well, I think that's better. I think that's a question that we should leave for the end, considering these other three teams. Cincinnati. What? Okay. When I originally wrote down the acquired, drafted, and released players that they had, I gave them a C+. That was the worst grade that I gave a team, and I gave it to them. I gave Cincinnati a really bad grade. And honestly, after looking over it, they did good. They did all right. They added more offensive lineman help. They got Ryan Finley. Yay. I mean, are they really still believing in Andy Dalton? Is he still... Look, the reason I'm questioning that, if you look up average NFL quarterback, Andy Dalton literally shows up, okay? I'm not joking. Andy Dalton is the most average quarterback ever. And look at it last season. They were doing really well in the first 5 games, and then they fell off. That's what the Bengals do. And here comes the term that everyone uses. They bungled, okay? The Cincinnati Bungles. They bungled it, okay? It was a complete bungle last season. The good thing that comes out of this, they hired Zach Taylor. Okay. New head coach. I think Marvin Lewis was kind of a curse. I think that Hugh Jackson was kind of a curse too. It was terrible, honestly. Zach Taylor could lead him in a new direction, but we'll have to see. Now on to Pittsburgh. Oh, boy. Pittsburgh. You traded Antonio Brown for kitchen scraps. What do I mean by kitchen scraps? I mean, you literally traded him for a 5th rounder, okay? An NFL superstar, best receiver out of last year, for a 5th rounder? For a 5th rounder. How does that work? How does that compute? What compels you to go, my star wide receiver wants to leave. What should I trade him for? And then you waited. You waited for weeks to trade him. And then you got that. Why? You re-signed Ben Roethlisberger for way too much. Way too much. The good things that come out of this, you added some good talent, okay? You got Mike Hilton, you got Steven Nelson, you got Dante Moncrief, you got Mark Barron. You also drafted Devin Bush. That was really good. As far as are you actually good, I don't know. I honestly don't. I don't believe in Ben Roethlisberger anymore, okay? He's not that great. He is definitely not that great, okay? The reason he got 5,000 yards, I'm sorry, I have to break it to you. It was Juju Smith-Schuster and Antonio Brown all the way, okay? It was the only reason he got over 5,000 yards. 9-6-1, my lord. And the best story out of the AFC North, Cleveland. Oh my God. Cleveland, Jesus Christ. Can I just say, John Dorsey is the best NFL GM I've seen in history, okay? Oh my God, John Dorsey. Freddie Kitchens is the new head coach. I think that was really good. He was the offensive coordinator for Baker Mayfield for a long time. That was really good. They added great key players. Oh my God. Sheldon Richardson, Olivier Vernon, Demetrius Harris, Eric Murray, Morgan Burnett, Garrett Gilbert. Oh my God. It was so good. And they didn't even have to trade up in the draft. They got Greedy Williams, a great defensive back. They got Mac Wilson, a great linebacker. Sheldrick Redwine, defensive back out of UM. It was great. The best stories that come out of this, and kind of controversial, one of them is, Odell Beckham Jr., great trade, was worth what you sent, and then you signed Kareem Hunt. Wow. Okay. Duke Johnson, you also got Nick Chubb, and now you got Kareem Hunt. That running back core is the best in the NFL. All right, given the fact that Kareem Hunt is suspended for 8 games in the NFL season, he's still a threat. He's still going to be a great halfback. If I'm going to be honest, are the Browns overrated? Are they overrated already? You can say that. You can. I won't judge you saying that they're overrated already. I kind of see that a lot with the people around me saying like, oh, the Browns added this, and that. You know, it's a little too much. Maybe they shouldn't have done that. If I'm going to be honest, they're still a young team. They're still relatively young. They're still relatively amazing. Their wide receiver core is amazing. The offensive line is still pretty good. The tight ends are stacked. The halfbacks are stacked. Your quarterback is literally the best quarterback I've seen in a while. Defense is amazing. Secondary got upgraded immensely. The front seven looks super scary. Like, everything about the Browns right now looks amazing. If they screw this up, it will look really bad, okay? If they don't go at least 10-6 next season, honestly, that's kind of a disappointment, in my opinion. Going back to the question I left for before, Baltimore, should they be on top? If the Browns aren't as scary as they are, Baltimore should be on top. But considering all the re-signings, the additions, everything that the Browns did, the Browns are literally the winners of the AFC North for years to come. Moving on to the AFC West, and before we get into that, I'd like to take a moment to say thank you for stopping by to listen to this episode, to this podcast. If you can, leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment down below about your own opinions about each team, each division. And if you think I'm wrong or if you think you have your own opinion, please leave a comment. I'll look over it and maybe I did say something wrong. I appreciate all of the opinions and all of the help. I really do. But now on to the AFC West. Denver. They went 6-10, okay? That was kind of... that was kind of predicted. Case Keenum was not going to be their quarterback 100%. I think the Cinderella story was very short-lived. They hired Vic Fangio? All right. I mean, he could take him somewhere if he's that good. And they had a pretty good NFL offseason, honestly. They signed Juwan James for a pretty big amount, honestly. They got Kareem Jackson, the defensive back. Bryce Callahan, another defensive back. Jake Brendel, the center. They also traded for Joe Flacco, which helps them. And why do I say that? Because they drafted Drew Lock, okay? Now, I've seen a report saying that Joe Flacco isn't going to be a mentor to Drew Lock. He's just going to play his own game and let it be. That's fine. Drew Lock is going to see what Joe Flacco does and his progressions and what he does. And Drew Lock can learn from that. Even if it's not mentoring, it's still learning. And as far as their draft is concerned, they did pretty well. They got Draymond Jones, the defensive tackle. Dalton Risner, the offensive tackle. They traded down, by the way, for Noah Fant. And I believe that trade down did help them trading up to get Drew Lock in the second round. They didn't add receivers. That was my one issue about them. They didn't add receivers because right now their biggest receiver is Emmanuel Sanders, and he's just hitting his prime, which is usually the start of the regression for regression. I don't know. I'm just saying that Emmanuel Sanders will probably be a little worse next year, considering the fact that they didn't get any receivers. And moving on, we got the Los Angeles Chargers. What a story they are, okay? Last year, they had a losing record. They weren't widely known after they went to Los Angeles from San Diego. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, from left field, they come in and get a winning record. 12-4. That should be That should be widely known. Nobody in the NFL talked about the Chargers. And that was kind of odd, considering the fact that they were very successful and just as successful as the Kansas City Chiefs, which we'll get to in a moment, actually. The biggest story is coming out of Los Angeles. Phillip Rivers is playing out his last year of his contract, meaning he'll play it out, he'll see if he wants to resign, and see if he still has the level of playing he has right now. They added to their front seven. Denzel Perryman re-signed. Travis Benjamin was re-signed, the wide receiver. They added Thomas Davis, which was really interesting. And they also added Brandon McBain, the defensive tackle. Is Tyrod Taylor a good addition? He looked decent on the Cleveland Browns last year, honestly. He looked pretty good. Is he the starting quarterback if Phillip Rivers goes? Yeah, he can be. I mean, I'm not trying to, take away what Tyrod Taylor has. He's pretty good. Considering the fact he was on the Bills and he went to the Browns, I mean, it was But Tyrod Taylor, honestly, if they're going to look for a really good quarterback to stay with them for a long time, they should look towards the draft, honestly. Anything else? Are the Chargers still a threat? Honestly, if Phillip Rivers keeps up the same level of play he had last year, they can be. Kansas City. They went 12-4. That was really cool. That was really cool to see. Patrick Mahomes, the biggest story coming out of there by a mile. Patrick Mahomes, the NFL MVP, a great quarterback. There's no flaws, if there's any. Literally no flaws with Patrick Mahomes. He's an amazing quarterback, goes through his progressions really well. The only bad game I would say he had was the Rams, okay? Again, highest scoring game in Monday Night Football history, 54-51, I believe. But at the end of the game, he made stupid mistakes, and that made him look like a rookie quarterback, okay? He made 2 deep throws down the field, and they got picked off. They're easily picked off. He should have thrown it to another receiver or thrown it out of bounds. He shouldn't have done what he done in that game, in my opinion. But nonetheless, great quarterback. Great quarterback. They made smart roster moves to prepare for the worst. Now, what I'm saying with that is that they made smart roster moves to prepare for Kareem Hunt's eventual, release, and also Tyreek Hill's case, which I really don't want to talk about. That's terrible, in my opinion. That's not great. That's not good at all. Doesn't look good at all. Did they make too many roster moves? They signed and released Sammy Coates. That was pretty ridiculous. They traded for Carlos Hyde, I believe. They signed Tyrann Mathieu. That was really good. They got Alex Okafor. They signed Rashad Breeland. And they traded for Emmanuel Ogbah. And they also traded for Frank Clark and Darren Lee. They did a lot of trades. Were they smart trades? That's what I want to get at. And considering the draft, they made a lot of good choices. They made a lot of good signings. If I'm going to be honest, they had a really good offseason, considering the fact of everything that's happened throughout the season. And now into the big story coming out of the AFC West. Oakland. Wow. I mean, gets talked about the whole year, gets scolded by trading Amari Cooper, Khalil Mack, everything. And then John Gruden being signed for 10 years. I mean, they get scolded left and right. But have you considered their draft? Have you considered their free agency? Have you considered all that? I don't think so. They traded for Antonio Brown. Okay. They signed LaMarcus Joyner. They signed Trent Brown. They signed Tyrell Williams. They signed Vontaze Burfict. They signed Nevin Lawson, Isaiah Crowell, and Luke Wilson. Those alone are really, really good. The last few, Luke Wilson and Isaiah Crowell, it might not seem much, but Isaiah Crowell, he did get injured, sadly. He was really good. He was a really good running back for the Jets. Luke Wilson, really good tight end for the Seahawks for many years. Antonio Brown, biggest story, in my opinion. Traded for him with a 5th-round pick, not even touching their first-rounders. That was beautiful. That was amazing. And not only that, with their first-round picks, they got Cleveland Farrell, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Abram. Those 3 alone will stand out on their team immediately. They also re-signed Doug Martin and Richie, and they also signed Doug Martin and Richie Incognito. Both are very interesting considering their stories. This team is very story-based, in my opinion. If you're going to look at the Oakland Raiders and all their acquisitions, there's going to be a lot of stories around them. They made great moves and additions. Does Derek Carr have the ability to win? Now, this is a great question. Does Derek Carr have the ability to shut out games and win like he was able to a couple of years back before his injury? Is that still up in the air? Yes. Derek Carr, we have yet to see anything great from him. Last season, of course, everything happened. I have yet to look at his film yet, so I believe next episode I'll probably do that. I'll look at every NFL quarterback's film, and I'll give you an in-depth analysis of each one. Are the Raiders prepared for the playoffs? Are they prepared to win now? If I'm going to be honest, they look really good. And right now, they're prepared to be a good team right now. They can go 8-8 and be satisfied, in my opinion. Antonio Brown might not be satisfied, but honestly, John Gruden will be. That team has a lot of additions, a lot of players that they've added. A team that makes a lot of roster moves doesn't mean that it's going to be a team that's going to win, okay? It means that they're going to learn from each other. Their chemistry is going to build gradually but slowly, okay? If I'm going to have a winner of this division for the offseason, Oakland, by a mile. There's no question about it. Oakland wins that division for a best offseason, in my opinion. Moving on to AFC East, and we got a couple of stories coming out of here. Buffalo, 6-10. All right. Josh Allen did show glimpses of being a good quarterback. Him, Sam Darnold, and Josh Rosen all had similar numbers for the rookie season. Again, they all went to pretty bad teams, okay? And they did really well, considering the fact of their teams. Who did the best out of those 3? Josh Rosen. But nonetheless, Josh Allen looks really good, okay? He's their franchise QB. They did really well drafting him. But here's the best part. They made really good roster moves, okay? They signed Mitch Morse. They signed Frank Gore. They signed Cole Beasley, John Brown, TJ Yeldon. Those are good offensive weapons for Josh Allen. As far as defense is concerned, they made some good changes for defense. Ed Oliver, that was really smart. They let it come to them. Ed Oliver was available for that 9th pick. They got him. Easy. E.J. Gaines, Maurice Alexander, and Kevin Johnson, also additions to the defense. Christian Wade, that was a story that was very short-lived. Christian Wade was I believe, a rugby player, if I'm not mistaken, rugby player or soccer player in England. Decided he wanted to be an NFL running back and signed with the Buffalo Bills. He's on the active roster right now. We have heard nothing from Christian Wade right now. But if he's good, I mean, hey, what a turnaround coming to American football. Are the Bills good? They're all right. I mean, they made really good, smart roster moves. If I'm going to be honest, they have enough to survive for now. If I'm going to be completely honest, draft and free agency next year is going to be very helpful for them. Considering the wide receiver department, I think they need to upgrade one a little bit on that wide receiver department. And the defense still needs a little bit of help. New York, the Jets. They went 4-12. They fired Todd Bowles, finally. And then they hired Adam Gase. What? If I can look through here. They acquired... Oh, boy. Kelechi Osemele, Darryl Roberts, Jamison Crowder, Henry Anderson, C.J. Mosley, Le'Veon Bell, Brian Poole, Steve McClendon, and Ty Montgomery. GM did really well. Offense looks really nice. Defense looks scary. But then they fired their GM. What? They fired their GM? Why? In the middle of in the offseason, they fired their GM for whatever reason. And not only that, they traded Darren Lee for scraps. They released Isaiah Crowell. That's the only bad part, in my opinion. The GM situation. What is that whole rigmarole, okay? What is that? What is that? And the last question I have for the Jets is, will Gase push the Jets over the top? Now, again, I'm a little pessimistic about that because it's the same division. He just moved teams, okay? He's moved to New York at a random. Can he help Sam Darnold? Yes. And I've seen reports from multiple coordinators and from the staff there at New York saying that Sam Darnold has an arm. He's looking really good. He's looking really sharp. If that's true, I want to see that next season. If New York looks revamped, if they have what it takes to be a good team, I want to see Sam Darnold be great, okay? I want to see a great season from Sam Darnold. New England, 11-5. They reloaded a lot, okay? Austin Seferian-Jenkins, Demaryius Thomas, Benjamin Watson, Dontrell Inman. Those are 4 key additions for that offense, in my opinion. Demaryius Thomas and Dontrell Inman are going to be very nice next to Julian Edelman. But that's not the only wide receivers that they have. They drafted N'Keal Harry, the best receiver out of that draft. And honestly, if I'm a Dolphins, Jets, or Bills fan, I would be terrified of what Tom Brady has right now as weapons, okay? It is scary. You should be scared. You should be beyond petrified of that offense, okay? You should be prepared to be defeated by the Patriots, 100%. Jared Stidham, the successor to Tom Brady, possibly. Again, Jimmy Garoppolo did learn from Tom Brady most of those years, and he looks really good. Jared Stidham could do the same. He can. Patriots 2020 Super Bowl champs? Too early to say? Who knows? If I'm being honest, the Patriots, they can still make it. Honestly, they still have the ability to make it. Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time. We don't know how he ages. It's still a question. It's still a major question, how he doesn't age. And I think the biggest story coming out of the AFC East, and I think a lot of this fan base is very happy. At least they should be. Miami Dolphins, okay? They went 7-9 last season. That's the second worst record out of that division. They acquired Dwayne Allen, the tight end, Eric Rowe, the defensive back. They got 2 new quarterbacks, okay? They cleaned out their quarterback department, okay? They got 2 new quarterbacks, Ryan Fitzpatrick and Josh Rosen, okay? They also signed Ricardo Lewis, the wide receiver from the Browns, if I'm not mistaken. Josh Rosen, please believe in Josh Rosen. Please, I beg of you, okay? Ryan Fitzpatrick, he looked great last year. I can say that very proudly. He looked really good. He was doing really well. The only problem with Ryan Fitzpatrick is he believes too much in his receivers, and he throws a lot of 50-50 balls. Josh Rosen, if you look at the film, he knows what to do. Josh Rosen makes those good throws, but if it comes to going to the well too much, he goes to the well too much, okay? He throws those underneath passes a lot. But there's good out of that. He does take what the defense gives him. The only bad part, he just goes to that particular spot way too much. If you look at the Seahawks game, his debut, you see a lot of the curl routes, okay? He goes to the curl routes way too much in any play, okay? There was, I believe, like 2 wide receivers on streaks or on posts. He had one curl route and he had one underneath route. He went to the curl route right away. It was not good. His progressions are a little bit slow. What am I getting at this? What am I getting at? Josh Rosen has a little bit of problems, but that's nothing that the Dolphins can't fix. If Josh Rosen develops next season, he can be a standout player for the Dolphins. He can be the quarterback that the Dolphins have wanted for so long if they play it out right. And another thing coming out of this, the Miami Dolphins, Brian Flores, the linebackers coach from the New England Patriots, got hired as their head coach. They have a whole new system, and they cleared a lot of cap space. Everything that they did right now was for long term. They were ready to go long term for anything, okay? Next offseason, they have a lot of chances to get more weapons. They have a lot of chances to sign long-term players. The Dolphins have the best chance for long-term in that division. The winner of the offseason in that division, I'm going to be honest, is tied between New England and New York. They both had great offseasons. I think New England is still going to be on top for a while. New York look good. I just hope they play good, okay? And on to the final division and the final 4 teams in the NFL offseason. The AFC South. This is quite interesting because there's a lot of, again, I say that a lot, quite interesting. All of these teams here made a lot of great additions, except for, I would say, the Texans, okay? They made a lot of these teams made a lot of great moves. The Texans, not so much. They got Tashawn Gibson, safety, Bradley Roby, the defensive back, Brian Body Calhoun, the safety. They also got Matt Khalil. And not only that, they didn't stop there. They got 2 tackles in Titus Howard and Max Sharping in the draft. They upgraded their offensive line mainly. They addressed their secondary, which was good because they lost Tyrann Mathieu. They're keeping the same offense. That's the main story I want to point out. They're keeping the same offense. They didn't add any halfbacks. They didn't add any wide receivers. They believe in their offense, okay? And I would too. The only problem I see happening is Lamar Miller slowly, not being as great as he was the last couple seasons. I think Lamar Miller is slowly becoming a worse halfback. But Deshaun Watson, long term, he's going to be a great quarterback. He's going to be the Texans quarterback for a while. He's an amazing quarterback. He's going to help them get to the playoffs 100%. And the wide receiver department, as they're concerned, they're set. Are they ready for next season? Maybe not. But they're definitely a quiet team to root for. Quiet meaning not a lot of people see them being a threat. Indianapolis went 10-6, made it to the playoffs for the first time in a couple years because of Andrew Luck. Their number 1 quarterback, and should be for a while, okay? They didn't do much with their cap space in the offseason, and that's really good. That's good. It doesn't mean you have to use your cap space. Just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean you should waste it. And that's what the Colts did. And they did really smart with it. They added more wide receivers. They added more defensive backs. And that was really smart. They added Devin Funchess. They added Paris Campbell from the draft. Defensive backs-wise, they got Pierre Desir, Derek Kindred, Rocky Sin from the draft. They did really well. The team is young. The team is relatively young, and with veteran help. They got Justin Houston in there to help out that front 7 and help... what's his name? Oh, no. What's his name? I totally forgot his name. That's not good. The linebacker, the young Colts linebacker. I forgot his name, sadly. Darius Leonard. Jeez. Yeah, that was bad. Darius Leonard. Justin Houston is going to be there to help Darius Leonard grow. If I'm going to be honest, the Colts have a really good chance with Andrew Luck still. Andrew Luck is still an elite quarterback. He's still really good. And honestly, he's not gonna leave. Tennessee, they went 9-7. They're one of the most quietest teams in the NFL, if I'm going to be honest. No one talked about them. No one reported on them. Literally, the Tennessee Titans were in the dark for the whole season. Nobody knew what was going on with the Tennessee Titans. And nobody didn't want to know, apparently. But here's one thing that they should know. They made a lot of good roster moves. They added Kenny Vaccaro, they added Adam Humphries, they added Cameron Wake, Roger Saffold. They got a backup in Ryan Tannehill, which is honestly better than playing Gabbert. Are they finally going to make a mark? That's the one thing I wanted to point out. Are they going to finally make a mark? Their draft choices were very interesting, might I add. Jeffrey Simmons, the defensive tackle, A.J. Brown, the wide receiver from Ole Miss, and Amani Hooker. Are they going to make a mark? With these players, I think they can. I think they can be a threat next year. It's just a matter of, is Marcus Mariota going to be elite? That's how they're going to be good next year. If Marcus Mariota is an elite quarterback next year, or can be, that's how good they can be. Okay? Jacksonville? They went 5-11. Okay? Blake Bortles immensely, he was off the mountain. He got thrown off the mountain. He was on top of the mountain being a good quarterback last season, and then all of a sudden he was like, you know what? I'm not going to be that good. What was that? What happened with Blake Bortles? I don't understand. Had the same receiver core, had more or less the same defense. Their team was still really good, and they went 5-11. How? Is Saxonville back? That's one I want to point out. Is Saxonville back? Because they got Josh Allen now. That defense, that front seven looks really nice. They also added Jawan Taylor, the tackle, and Gardner Minshew, the quarterback, out of the draft. And that's pretty much it for quarterbacks. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, right? Wrong. Okay. Nick Foles, the biggest story coming out of Jacksonville. Biggest. 4-year, $88 million deal. That was a smart decision by Jacksonville. Money-wise, I don't know. Maybe. Nick Foles is going to be an elite quarterback for them. He's going to help them get to the playoffs. Most likely. They played really smart during the draft. Is Nick Foles the savior of the Jacksonville Jaguars? I think so. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars can have a great season. The teams in the NFC South have really, really good scenarios, okay? None of them look like they're going to fall, but none of them look like they're going to be... It's going to be a tough division next year for the AFC South. They also eliminated cap room. Jacksonville eliminated the cap room for them for future moves, just like the Dolphins did. As far as the winner of the AFC South for best offseason, I gave Tennessee an A-. Honestly, Jacksonville. Why not Jacksonville? I want to see Tennessee and Indianapolis, but honestly, these teams did really well. They did really well with cap space. A lot of these teams made good roster moves. I think Jacksonville will have a great standout year. I think it'll be a dark horse if by any chance Nick Foles is still a really good quarterback. As far as playoffs are concerned next year, it's going to be very tough considering all these teams. If I'm going to be real honest, Los Angeles Rams are still going to be in the playoffs. The Eagles can make it to the playoffs again. The Seahawks can make it back to the playoffs. The Cowboys can make it back to the playoffs. Chicago can make it back, but honestly, are they still the same team as last year? We have to see. I'll keep them in mind. Green Bay can definitely come out of the NFC North and make it to the playoffs. Same thing with the Minnesota Vikings. If the Vikings can show that they're still the same defense as 2 years before, they can definitely make it back to the playoffs, and they can definitely dominate in the NFL. NFC South, New Orleans can make it back to the playoffs 100%. I believe that Atlanta can resurge and come back into the playoffs with Matt Ryan and with that offense. I think they can definitely come back with a new defensive coordinator, with a new offense. They can definitely come back and make it to the playoffs. As far as AFC is concerned, Baltimore and Cleveland out of the AFC North can definitely make it to the playoffs. If Cleveland doesn't get to a 10-6 record next year, I think that's a big disappointment. I think that's a huge disappointment. AFC West, Kansas City most likely, Los Angeles maybe. If we're gonna look for any second teams, any other teams in that division, Oakland, I think Denver will stay at the bottom for a little bit. Out of the AFC East, New England 100%. Miami can, okay? Miami can. They can surprise a few people with a winning record. They can. AFC South is concerned, Indianapolis or Houston. Jacksonville, real good dark horse for that division. And that's pretty much it for my analysis for the NFL offseason in this episode of Andres' football assessment. If you liked it, leave a like, leave a comment down below if you have any other opinions, any other views that you want corrected. Again, next week or in a couple of days, I'll probably go more into depth with quarterbacks and how they play, more quarterback analysis for each team. Please subscribe to the channel. I'll be posting weekly episodes, hopefully. And during the school year, during next year, for the NFL season, I'll be doing weekly in-depth analysis of how each team looks, any major stories, any injury developments, anything like that, okay? So please support the channel. Please spread it out. Please spread the word that this is a new podcast about the NFL. I would greatly appreciate it. If we can get to maybe 10 likes, 15 likes on this video, I can definitely go ahead and do the quarterback analysis in a couple of days and post it for you guys. Thank you for listening, and hope you have a great day.